My name is Livia Bornigia. I teach in the communication department here at the University of St. Thomas. I am the rhetorical theory expert, so I teach all the public speaking classes. So I teach the basic public speaking course. I also teach persuasion and argumentation. I also teach propaganda, a seminar on propaganda, which is based on understanding how propaganda operates and pervades our society from a communication perspective. And also I teach a course in Italian cinema, which goes through, I guess, the main contribution of Italian filmmakers, both directors and actors in the 20th century. And it also gives the students a chance to learn about Italy's social and political history. I truly believe that everything starts with the ability to communicate, and that if one does not know how to express their ideas in an unapologetic yet respectful way to an audience, then one will not be able to be successful in their own profession or their own discipline. I think it was the Greek leader Pericles who once said, "One who forms a judgment on any subject but cannot express it might as well have never thought at all on the subject." Studying at St. Thomas provides a very different experience, I think, than being in a, say, in a large state university like the University of Houston. I can give you a good perspective on that because I am myself an alum of the University of St. Thomas. I won't tell you which class, but I'm an alum and I was a communication student with minors in theology and French. I was not a transfer student, so I stayed here from the very beginning to the very end. And I think it's really wonderful, although it was a little intimidating at first, that the same people who are now my colleagues in this wonderful department, Dr. Williamson, Professor Cazares, and Professor Butler, they were my teachers when I was a student. It took me a while to get adjusted to that. But I can tell you that when I first arrived in America, and I first arrived in Houston, I visited all the universities around Houston, and when I came to UST, I felt that I had come home. I felt very welcomed. Everybody was lovely. I felt that sense of community that we talk about as advisors and that our students relate back to us when they give us feedback. I didn't feel like I was just a number. I was a person with a name, a first and a last name. And I got to know my teachers right away. So I would say that the first difference, the first thing is that you really feel like a human being. In class, if something is going very well, your teachers will know about it. If sometimes life gets in the way, and it does, because our students, just like the teachers, the students also have lives outside of the classroom. So when a situation like that occurs, I know and I've seen myself and my colleagues pull together to help the students. So there's a real sense of community, and I really like that. As I tell my students on the first day of class, one has to have an ability to express their ideas in front of an audience in a way that is unapologetic. We are all entitled to our own opinions. It's the basis of our democracy, First Amendment right. But at the same time, how to do so in a way that takes into account that we do live in a diverse society and that other people may have different ideas. So how do you learn to be a polite yet professional speaker who is also sensitive to the needs of an audience? And I think that's probably one of my greatest achievements in this class. I have had students repeatedly tell me during the semester and also after the semester that they felt much more comfortable understanding that they had a voice in society and that their ability to express their ideas in front of a group of people made them both, made them active participants in society and also allowed them to fulfill their duty to be a part of a democracy. So I think that's a great achievement. At the risk of sounding cliche-ish, I love seeing the light bulb go off, and I love when a student who is very good in front of an audience becomes even better. I remember one student in particular who started off very shaky and ended up being the commencement speaker at graduation, and then went on to have a career as a litigation attorney. That made me very, very proud. And she always says that, and it's true, the first day of class she was very shaky. So I think I love seeing that development, and I also love to see the timid student who is no longer afraid, or who has in any way made great strides toward being much less afraid to be in front of an audience. It's the difference between being visible in society and respecting your own dignity as a human being and your right to be in society, and being invisible, and what all the implications of being invisible carry. When you're invisible, your voice is not heard. So as a teacher, I love to give my students the practical and creative wings that will allow them to be successful in whatever profession, because especially this class is very interdisciplinary. So whatever the profession may be, whether they're going to be doctors or lawyers or diplomats, to give them their abilities, what really motivates me. Teaching is a vocation, it's not just a job. Students who are quiet in class, and you can see them listening, and you're hoping that they're really making a connection, and then they surprise you. This one student sent me an email, and he told me that he was getting ready to join the seminary, decided to become a priest, and he wanted to thank me for the skills that he had learned in both public speaking and persuasion and argumentation, because he knew that they were going to help him to reach out to his parishioners when the time came. I thought that was great. Each student has a different starting point. Some people are more comfortable in front of an audience, and some people are not. So I have to track each individual student's progress. And I keep notes on each student from the beginning of the semester, and I meet with them one-on-one. The concept of owning the space is something that comes from both my training in public speaking, but also my training as an actor and a director. Is just something that I use to allow my students to understand this idea that if you are fully present in the space at the time of your presentation, then absolutely nothing can go wrong. And I give them a number of examples. Your outline falls to the ground. Your audience is only going to be noticing that something went wrong if you behave as if something went wrong. So if you simply stop for a moment, smile, pick up your outline, and keep going, then your audience is going to stay with you. You are in control of the situation. You are, in that moment, the actor, the director, and the editor of your own behaviors. So never give up your control to somebody else. Never give up your control to what you think somebody else's expectations of your behavior should be. And no matter what happens, remember that you have a purpose to fulfill. And in public speaking, that purpose is to be a servant to your audience. You're standing there to deliver a message that is going to hopefully have a beneficial effect for your audience. You're not standing there to fulfill an egocentric need to be heard. It is something to do with establishing yourself as a servant to the community, and therefore you are a medium through which an important message is being presented. That helps the students understand that their purpose should be higher than themselves, and that within that they have the power to control the situation no matter what happens.